welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're glad to have you with us here today. We will be talking about The Matrix. We have just come up on its 25th anniversary. It's almost hard to believe. And so we thought that would be a perfect opportunity to go back, revisit it, talk a bit about that. Before we do that, though, just want to remind you, we're brought to you by progressivechristianity.org. We encourage you to go there for all of your progressive Christian needs. So we also encourage you to follow us on Facebook and make sure that you are signed up to download the podcast. But more importantly, I need to warn you, and this feels like a weird warning after 25 years, but we will spoil Matrix. If you haven't seen it yet, that's on you. I don't feel like we're responsible this time around. What do you think, Caleb?
We are not. We are not. You know, 25 years, if you don't know, and it's been like a cultural phenomenon. If you don't know what The Matrix is about, I don't know. I don't know, man.
If it hasn't been spoiled for you already, you're not even watching other movies, because so many movies pull from The Matrix to do things. I mean, come on. But it should be a fun time. It's really it's so much going on in this film. It should be a lot of fun. We should have drinks, though. We should have drinks to do the movie with. I'm curious, what themed cocktail did you come up with?
Okay, yeah. So I think one of the things that's really synonymous with The Matrix is that green screen. You know, with the code kind of coming down. I know you can't think about the Matrix without thinking about that. So what I did was I got some champagne. And I have dyed it green. It really is a nice shade of green. Nice. It looks darker on the screen than it really is. And it's got these bubbles which reminded me of the code coming down. Yeah. So that's what I'm drinking. How about you, Mark?
I also created a drink based on those. Turns out that there has become a name for those green letters falling down.
Okay.
It's called Digital Rain. And so I'm calling my cocktail Digital Rain. Also went for the same color. It's apple juice, vodka, melon liqueur, and sour apple liqueur, and it comes out pretty close to the color of the Digital Rain. So I'm calling this a Digital Rain. It seems like it'd be perfect for talking about The Matrix. What do you think?
That sounds right. Cheers to you, Mark.
Cheers. We will have a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side and geek out a little bit about this movie.
Woo.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Won't you shine?
Hello, and welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show, where today we are talking about The Matrix. If you'll let us geek out for just a few minutes, and this is a great movie to geek out about. We'll get to theology and politics in just a few minutes in the next segment. So The Matrix, just in case you haven't seen it over the last 25 years, The Matrix depicts a dystopian future in which humanity is unknowingly trapped inside the Matrix, a simulated reality that is run by intelligent machines. And they've created this simulated reality to distract human beings while using their bodies as an energy source. When computer programmer Thomas Anderson, also known as his hacker alias Neo, uncovers the truth, he joins a rebellion against the machines, along with other people who have been freed from the Matrix. So free your mind, man. Free your mind. Mark, were you a fan of this movie when it came out? And did you follow the sequels as well?
I was obsessed with the movie, obsessed with the sequels, obsessed with the animated movie. I followed them all. I don't even have a DVD player at my house. I don't have a computer that has a DVD player on it.
Yes.
But there are just a few movies that I still have on DVD, and the entire Matrix series happens to be one of them.
I love that. So it's important enough to you that you have kept this antiquated technology as memorabilia.
You know why I did it too, don't you? In case AI takes over, I can still have a resource. I don't have to count on the digital Matrix world
That's what I
They
figured because
Yeah,
you
of
want
course.
something that you can kind of be analog
Yeah.
on
It's
a little
closer
bit. I
to
mean,
analog. Yeah,
closer
yeah,
to analog. I mean, it's
yeah.
still digital video
Right.
disc, but
But
I get you.
I can actually isolate it from, the
Yes.
internet,
You don't have to
the
be
matrix.
networked. You don't have to be
Exactly.
networked, and that's
Exactly.
important.
I'm good to
So
go. So
I was a fan too. Actually, Mark, I heard about The Matrix for the first time in a Sunday school class when it came out,
yeah,
and like everyone was like
you know,
talking about The Matrix, and they're like, "I think religion is kind of like The
yeah,
Matrix,
yeah, yeah.
man." And I'm like, "What are they talking about?"
There was a
I
lot of
got into
talk
it.
of Neo being a Christ figure and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna go there, by the way. I'm doing our next segment, and
Not
we're
doing it.
not rehashing that mess. No.
We've people have been there, and actually, this wasn't like the official thing we were talking about in Sunday school. It's just like it was such a cultural
You
phenomenon at the
could not
time
talk about it,
that
right?
you could not talk about it. And so we were just like talking about it. And so I was a fan too. I watched the sequels, and the video games. The video games were a big deal,
Yeah.
especially like as the sequels came out and on PS2 is what I played. And I remember, you could do the Matrix kind
Yeah,
of dodging
exactly.
the bullets and all that kind of stuff. And that was a lot of fun. So I watched that. So Mark, it's
Yeah.
25th anniversary, and
Mm,
the Wachowskis came up with this incredible screenplay. They
yeah.
directed the thing, and it was really kind of mind bending, and people loved
Mhm.
that. But it was also the visual effects that really grabbed people, and they were doing
Unbelievable.
the slow motion stuff. How does this hold up? Do you think after 25 years?
I have to say, I was floored by how it's been. I probably watched it 5 years ago on the 20th anniversary, but I don't remember
Yeah,
doing that clearly.
yeah,
I was floored by how well it holds up because in the last few episodes, so you and I have talked about how practical effects sometimes hold up a lot better than digital effects.
yeah.
And we've got a movie here where they were both, but it was a whole lot
Right.
more digital.
Hmm.
And it made me kind of go back and say, boy, I feel sort of stupid for some of the stuff I said about how digital stuff gets after a while. It's so antiquated that you can tell how bad it is. That is not the case here, which that just shows you how incredible the filmmakers were because it
Yeah.
holds up. I'd put it up next to any movie. Like think of Star
Right.
Wars with
Yeah.
all of the digital effects that go on it. I'd put it right
Yeah.
beside it, and it would of one made today, and I think it would hold up just as well. I mean,
Yeah.
what was your experience?
I had a similar reaction. I went through and watched it last night, and
Mhm.
I was like, this is really good. These special
Right.
effects are really good. And I think you're right. This is like light years ahead of its time, because
Mhm.
I think that in general what we've been saying is true, but I think this is the exception, right? That if you put this against other stuff in the late 90s, you,
Oh,
you wouldn't even think that they were made in the same decade. And
you're right.
I think that is really incredible, and the visual effects are one of the things that really made the Matrix so special,
Yeah,
and has continued to grab people because of how groundbreaking it really was.
absolutely.
So so I'm curious, Mark. So we've revisited the Matrix 4 times, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
We've got the two direct sequels, and we've
Yeah,
got Animatrix to the
right.
animated one, and then in 2021 a sequel came out, and I think maybe some people missed that because it was in the midst of the COVID-19
Yeah,
stuff, and I don't know if it even premiered in theaters or if it just was streaming. I don't even remember.
right.
I
I don't
watched it
either.
streaming. So here's what I'm curious about. Do you think we have thoroughly explored the Matrix universe, or do you think there's more room for stuff to happen? And if there's more room, which it seems like maybe you think, are there any like adaptations we need to make to this to more fully explore what the Matrix world might look
Yeah,
like?
I mean that's a great question. I mean, no, I don't think we fully exploit it. I think they have
Yeah.
created such a rich, deep,
Hmm.
metaphorical world. There's so much deep metaphor in what happens that I think there's plenty of space to explore that world and what's going on there. I mean, we really, I think, with sort of our new technology, we could go yet to another level and explore the actual machines that are using the humans as batteries, and start looking into that world. And that there can be a great complexity there, since they've been around for as long as it turns out that it's been around. I think there's a third level that could be explored, just if we were to start telling the stories of the machines that created all of this. We get pieces of it, but I think there's a rich opportunity there. And I'm sure there's other spaces. You're bound to have other ideas.
Yeah, well, I would love to see some of that, because I think one of the things that we have seen as we've explored a little bit more is a lot of the fighting and visual effects. And yeah, that's one of the things that made The Matrix really cool.
Sure.
And that was a lot of fun to watch. But I would love to explore more of what life is like in 2199 or whenever
Almost
it is.
2199. They don't really know, because they stopped keeping track at some point.
That's right. And I mean, I get that most of humanity is like in these pods, but not everybody. They're in their towns. And I would love to see a little bit more of that.
We had a couple of characters in the original one that were born in that space, and they didn't have the hookups in the back of their neck. So we know that there could be subcultures somewhere. And you're right. That could be fascinating.
And we hear about the town where everybody kind of is. And I would love to see that. I would love to explore some of that a little bit.
Yep,
and so I think, yes, you still do the stuff that makes The Matrix, but I think leaning into some of that other stuff and exploring some other ways to be groundbreaking in 2024 with special effects would be really interesting, because as I said, that is something that was really
incredible.
Fun about
Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
So Mark, it's 25 years old now, right?
Yeah,
and it also hit me because it's been a while since I've watched this. I like I said, I watched the one that came out in 2021, and that's kind of the last time I really engaged with The Matrix. And I was like, oh yeah, this is about AI too. That it's not just about people being hooked up to machines, but it's about AI. And so that really kind of struck me with where we are in 2024, the development of the AI. And so, Mark, I just felt like I need to ask you, since we're talking about this, are we like already living in the Matrix? Are we in the Matrix right now?
There is a theory, the simulation theory, that the world that we're in is actually just an iteration of a simulation that's been set up by someone at some place, and it's so far advanced, that we think that we're real, but that we're actually part of a simulation. Like, that's like a legitimate scientific theory that has been discussed by some of the biggest minds in science. And my favorite astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has talked about it many, many times. So I don't know, man. And I'm a little worried about talking too loud in case AI is listeing. I just don't know.
I know, right? And I don't readily have a red pill with me to take. So, I guess we'll just have to live in the simulation. Hey, let's say a word, because you may want. I don't want to step on your toes here. You may want to talk more about AI later on. And so, I do want to talk about casting too.
Oh yeah.
How wonderful is Keanu Reeves in this? And do you think that someone else could have pulled off the character of Neo?
He is absolutely, he's incredible in this. And at this point, it's impossible to think of anyone else being Neo. Yeah, I think someone else could have pulled it off. I just don't think the movie would have been what it is.
And I have a specific reason why I'm asking this.
Because was there other casting
there was other casting, and so this part was offered to Will Smith, who late 90s, he's coming off of Independence Day and all that. I mean, he is a megastar at the end of the 90s, and so this part is offered to Will Smith, who turns it down. He turns it down to play Jim West in Wild West. Yes. And so he was recently.
He's still regretting that one.
He was recently asked on a podcast. They said, if you could go back in time, Will Smith, and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? And he said, play Neo, not Jim West. And so I'm curious, do you think Will
Oh,
Smith could have pulled this off?
He might have come as closest to anyone. You think about like some of the dystopian movies that he's in where he plays this sort of lost, sunken character who needs to find themselves, which is part of Neo's story. And then all of the shows he's been in where he's played a badass and could, fight really well. And I do like his acting. I think as much as he's been snubbed some in Hollywood, I kind of think that maybe it still would have been different. But yeah, I would like to see him in a version of the Matrix.
Okay, so the next iteration of the Matrix. Here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to explore the 2199, right? We're going to go see the town. We're going to explore more of the machines, and we're going to get Will Smith coming in. And what do you think? He could be like a leader of a resistance element we don't know about or something. What do you think? Where do you think we should have it?
I think I'm thinking more of, okay, so here comes, this is the geek out segment. So, all right. So remember,
let us geek out. Yes.
So you remember when Morpheus takes Neo to the city and they're walking through the city and there's all these people and he's dodging them and bumping them and the lady in the red comes and all that. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but all of the people in that scene are doubles. There's two nuns, there's two businessmen, and they're all the same actor. They're all the same.
No, I didn't catch it. Yeah.
So I think we need like the Matrix, someone hacks the Matrix and it duplicates itself, and we get retold the original Matrix story with slight changes, like the two black cats.
Yeah.
And Will Smith is the new one. And Keanu, though, is monitoring it in some ways and considering what would have happened if he would have made the choices that Will Smith's character. I think that could be exciting.
I think that would be really fun. That would be very different too, and it would be fun to see them play off each other. I don't know if they've been in the movie together or not, but they're
I can't think of one. I think
they're both kind of bad
together.
It would be great. I would love to see that. Okay, so we've written the next sequel, and we will expect our royalties to be.
Let's copyright that real quick, though.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you mean we've written it? Wait a minute.
I asked the question, Mark. Doesn't that count for something?
You were the impetus, the inspiration. You were what set it afire. So yeah, I'm with you. I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. That's like a Bob Kane, Bill Finger kind of question.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, look, I want to geek out a lot more, and I'm sure we will maybe as we get deeper.
Sure.
But we've also got to get to theology and politics. So let's take a quick break, come back, and talk about theology and politics of the Matrix.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show, and thank you for joining us for our theological political segment. So I think I'm going to do one question that is sort of been discussed, but I feel like it's important that we discuss, and then maybe find some new ground. We're not going to do the Christ Savior stuff, that kind of thing. So I want to start here, though, from characters in this movie like Switch to the characters taking on new names other than their birth names, to lines like where Neo says, to Trinity, I always just thought you were a guy. And Trinity says, most guys do. In a lot of ways, we all should have caught on that one of the primary metaphors of the Matrix was about being trans. I mean, I guess it was a different time then, and we weren't as aware, or as the director says, say we maybe weren't ready. But in the 25 years since, have we advanced much on this issue? And regardless of your answer, where is there more work to do?
Yeah. I think societally we have advanced some in some spheres.
Right.
And I say that very carefully because I think
Mm.
that those who are interested in like being affirming people
Right.
I think that there is an effort to understand more about gender identity being on a spectrum and not being a binary and gender identity being something even that can be fluid, and I think that
Yeah.
that is something that some segments are really interested in learning more about and affirming. And granted that like even people who I think want to do that, sometimes people struggle and are maybe where we should be. And so I think,
Yeah.
for instance, that my congregation was the first open and affirming congregation of my denomination in Southern California. And so that meant that
Wow.
around the time the Matrix came out is when we went through the open and affirming process. And
Mm.
what the congregation was talking about then was basically sexuality, not gender
Right.
identity.
Yeah.
And sexuality as a binary too. You're either straight or you're gay. And that's what the conversation was.
Sure.
And so even in space like that, where there's a long history, like it's sometimes a struggle for people to think about what gender identity means. So I think that in some spaces, yes, but I think we've also seen severe transphobia. And especially after Donald Trump's election, I think that people became more emboldened in that. And
Mhm.
we don't have to look very far at all to see that there is a real effort to criminalize trans folks.
Absolutely.
I mean, anyone in the LGBT community,
And
but I think trans
a
folks in particular.
dehumanizing of people who are
Yes,
trans. I mean,
yes,
and it's
yes.
just it's sickening, really.
It is sickening, and especially seeing all these bills introduced in state
Yeah.
houses to try and strip away rights
Yeah.
is terrible. And of course, you continue to have the rhetoric about about pedophilia and stuff like that, stuff that isn't related at all, but
And
people
there's
are trying to use
yeah,
scare tactics to get people
absolutely.
to vote, to oppress others. And so it's a real mixed bag. I feel like those on the left are really trying but have work to do. And so
Yeah.
I feel like the conversation has moved in the past 25 years some, but
Mhm.
I feel like in society generally in a lot of places we've regressed as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think
Yeah,
about
I
that?
agree. I agree. I think that there have been spaces where we have definitely made more space to have these conversations and to be open-minded about it and try to be uh, let ourselves be re-educated so we have a better understanding. But I do think that there's equal segments that have become more aggressive and violent about this topic. And so I think it's really important for those who are willing to be open-minded and be educated to work towards things that need to happen to make the world a better and safer place for folks who are trans. We need to continue to work on making sure that preferred names and pronouns are used. Don't be scared to ask if you don't know. We need to create more safe places. We need to educate ourselves and educate other people about transphobia. Um, And we need to like install more non-discriminatory policies. Even stuff as simple as the way we do genders on forms need to be looked at. Um, need to like begin to realize and understand and see folks. Don't allow that dehumanizing that is being pushed to affect you. See people as who they are. Respect who they are. Like things as simple as don't out folks. It's their story to tell. Let them tell their story. Avoid even when you're around folks who are trans, also again, don't let the dehumanizing impact you. Don't use stereotype advice, like you'd be more whatever if you were more like did this to your hair or did whatever.
Yeah.
And there's two things though I think are the most important right now.
Yeah.
Two. One, when you hear someone being transphobic, speak up. And two, vote for candidates who are not going to support transphobic policies. I think it's essential. Those two things we need more across society for sure.
Absolutely. And it's not like it's a mystery. Well, and
Let me
as you
step down.
should. I mean, it is an election year, man, and
Yeah.
it's not like it's a mystery which
Mhm.
candidates
Right.
support LGBT folks and
Exactly.
those who want to strip rights away.
Yeah.
It's not a secret at all. And so, well, if we, it's like the meme says, you can't say you love someone while voting for
Voting for someone
candidates who are
who's
going to oppress them. Yeah, and
exactly.
so we got to do that. I
Yeah.
100% agree.
Okay, it was important for us to talk about that, and I'm probably going to come back to this by the end of the show anyway. But I want to go in another direction now.
Yeah.
So one point in the movie, Morpheus is speaking to Neo, and he says, "What is the Matrix?
Uh-huh.
Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to keep us under control in order to change a human being, and in this case, into this," and he holds up a battery. So,
Yeah.
and that's just one example. One of the clear themes in The Matrix is the human struggle between controlling structures and freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you see those two things happening in the church with a capital C?
Mm-hmm.
And is one of those healthier than the other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the church uses dogma and doctrine to control people a whole lot. And especially, I think, fear of an eternal punishment is one of the ones that's used the most. And it is used by churches across the board. Everything from Catholic to Orthodox to evangelical. I mean, very theologically different, but places that are use dogma to say, hey, look, if you don't believe in a certain way, if you don't come to church this often, if you don't do what I say, then you're going to go to hell. But I think that's one of the clearest examples that manipulates people, because you terrify people when you tell people their eternal souls are at stake, and if they don't listen to you, then then it doesn't matter what happens to you in this life. You don't wait for what's coming. And so I think that's one example. But I think the church uses dogma all the time about all kinds of other things to control and manipulate people too. And so that can be anything from like beliefs about who Jesus is and about how you are to behave, and a lot of stuff that isn't really even biblical. So I think about sex, for instance, too. I mean, that's one of the places where the church exerts the most control based on nothing in the Bible. The church is very interested in what's going on in your bedroom, and
the Bible isn't.
And the Bible is not, and not at all. And so, and in fact, models all kinds of relationships.
Absolutely.
And much more diverse than we often think about it in 21st century America. And so I think that that religion often uses dogma to manipulate people. I think that for some people, some of that can be helpful, like structures of belief. Some people really appreciate that. That's never been particularly meaningful to me. And so I have always valued the freedom of belief. And so I think churches that allow for a responsible freedom of belief are probably better off and probably closer to what Jesus intended. And I say responsible freedom of belief because a lot of times people will ask me like, oh, well, you just can believe anything.
Right.
Like, well, no, you can't believe just anything. You have to believe stuff that's grounded in Jesus's teachings.
Exactly.
Right. And so, but you have to actually understand what Jesus's teachings are. And once you understand what Jesus's teachings are, then, I mean, I think it expands our minds. It opens ourselves to possibilities. But yeah, we gotta allow ourselves that responsible freedom to be able to get there. So I think that all in all, the freedom is much better than the dogma we get in the church. I think that's the message we get from the Matrix too, although people I think struggle with that, because just like in religion, when you get all sorts of freedom, that can be kind of overwhelming. And at first, you're not sure if you made the right choice or not, because it can feel like you've lost a lot. That I think we see characters struggle with that in the Matrix too. Like when they're open, their minds are open to new reality. they wonder if they made a mistake. Should they have just
Absolutely.
taken that blue
I mean,
pill
you think
after
of you think of Cypher, that character,
Yeah.
who decided that the freedom was all too much and that he wanted to go back to the blissfulness of ignorance in his way of
Yeah.
seeing it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree, and it's an interesting balance. I think we need both. I think we need a little bit of structure so that but the trick is to have that be a healthy kind of structure and not a structure that's aimed at controlling and manipulating. And that can be a difficult balance, but I'm with you. I always err on the side of preferring freedom. I'm going to try to sneak in one more quick question, and it's got starts with a little bit of a long quote from Agent Smith, who says, "Do you know what the first Matrix was designed? That it was designed to be a perfect human world where none suffered, where everyone would be happy. It was a disaster. No one would accept the program. Entire crops were lost. Some believe that we locked the programming language to describe your perfect world, that we lacked the programming language to describe the perfect world. But I believe that as a species, human beings define their reality through suffering and misery. The perfect world was a dream that your primitive cerebrum kept trying to wake up from, which is why the Matrix was redesigned to the peak of your civilization." Does humanity really reject a world where everyone is happy?
Well, I mean, I guess history would show that we haven't been able to quite do that yet, that we have sure tended to cause a lot of our own suffering. And but I think a lot of that is also because we've got people who are grabbing power and who aren't concerned with the happiness of others. They're
Yeah.
concerned with their own happiness primarily. And so I think that like what Jesus was talking about whenever he was talking about the reign of God on earth is that he was talking about a place where we could live more fully into that. And I don't think we ever eliminate suffering because, you know, uh, I think we can eliminate some of the causes of systemic suffering, but
Sure.
life can be suffering. I mean, that is what our Buddhist friends tell us, right? That
Right.
life is suffering and that just living is
The trick is when we
it,
see the suffering as a negative.
right, right. And when we realize that we're like it's our attachment, it's our that it's like
Exactly.
ourselves that cause the suffering, and
Mhm.
when we just see life as being life, then that changes our perspective on it. So I think that human beings have caused a lot of our own suffering, but I think the goal is to live in a world where there is less of that. So I don't know. I think I may have walked all the way around your question, Mark, and not really answered it.
I think you answered it in a fair way, actually, because I do think that for me, it's psychologically a right brain, left brain kind of thing, because we do know it's not perfectly right brain, left brain, but there is a part of us who wants structure and control and measurability and that kind of stuff. But then there's the other side of us that wants, to see how connected we are and to understand the big picture and to be empathetic. And I think that we internally struggle with both of those things. And part of what gives life excitement and meaning is the presence of both. The trick in my mind is to keep it more balanced towards the right side where we can be more empathetic. We could go down I'm going to use the metaphor. We could go down a big rabbit hole on that one, but we're out of time on this segment.
But we're not going to follow the white rabbit on this one. No,
not this time. Not this time. We ran out of minutes, but it's something really worth talking about. And I love that the movie kind of invites us to think about that kind of thing. So let's take a quick break because we don't want to miss our favorite and final segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. Our final segment is here, the Make Me Look Stupid segment.
Woo-hoo!
And Mark, I've got to say, I used food coloring in my champagne to make it green, and my whole mouth is now green
noticed.
from this
I have
food from
noticed.
this food coloring. Yes, yes. So the
Yeah.
Matrix has just infiltrated my entire
That's
body.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Okay. So my question is,
Yeah.
what can I use to not make my mouth green next time? No. Okay. So I've got a lot of questions, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
narrow this down, Mark. And
Yeah.
I think I want to ask you about something else that Agent
Okay.
Smith said.
All
So
right.
he said that human beings make everything they touch worse. They continue to expand. They continue to touch everything and kill everything they touch. And he said there's something else that does that, and it's a virus. And he said
Mhm.
human beings are a virus. And so, Mark, human beings have spread all throughout the earth. Human beings have exploited natural resources, sucked up most of natural resources. They have, really kind of depleted the earth. Are human beings a virus? What do you think?
Yeah, well, first, his argument was that we're not mammals, that we're viruses, and that's obviously demonstrably incorrect. Do we sometimes impact the planet as if a virus? We are infectious. We certainly do cause deep harm. Um, I'm not sure I would call that a virus, though. Not from the perspective, the larger perspective. I think that it is indicative of really poor choices, of being very self-centered mammals who are only concerned with individualism and not a collective connectedness, and how important it is to understand how we impact everything and everyone. But yeah, virus. I'm going to say no. That we really are just flawed individual mammals that are a little bit too self-serving in instances when we should be realizing that serving everyone actually serves us better than just paying attention to ourselves. So that's my quick answer to sort of answer. It's a half answer. What do you think?
No, we're not mammals. We're just a virus.
I figured that's where you're
That's
going.
it. That's all of it. No, I mean, I think some of the points are valid, though. I mean, that
Yeah.
human beings are uh, are flawed, as you said, and we really have exploited the earth. And so I
100%.
think that we also are on a trajectory where the earth will be uninhabitable, and where we will be the cause of the destruction of this earth, not just for human beings, but for everybody. And so we do have to be thinking
Yeah.
and not just thinking but acting in such a
Mhm.
way that we are addressing some of these issues, that we are not continuing to exploit our earth to the point of extinction. And scientists debate whether or not we are even at a point where we can do anything about this now.
Yeah.
We need to be thinking about overpopulation and what our role in that is, and especially as there are people who are starving because they don't have enough to eat, even though there is enough on
Enough
the
for
earth.
everyone. Yeah.
Yes, if only we would share. And so I think that human beings have to have a change in attitude, a change in practice, if we're even going to survive, if the earth is
Agreed.
even going to survive. So,
Yeah.
no, I don't think we're a virus. But could you say that we have elements of a virus? Sure, you can,
Sure. Absolutely.
because we do, we do.
No, I
Okay,
hear you.
thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's an interesting question. I like that very much. So my question is a lot easier. It's just 4 words, 5 words.
5 words. Okay.
Blue pill or red pill?
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't you have to ask yourself this question every time that you watch The Matrix? Like when
Right?
you're in Neo's shoes?
I'm
Like,
just curious to hear your answer.
I know. Red pill man. I always prefer the truth to the lie.
Yeah.
Even if it's a blissful lie, I want to know the truth. I would prefer to know the truth. And so
Yeah.
red pill for me. But I say that because, it's also a curiosity on whether your answer changes once you know what's on the other side. So, but I think I always want to know the truth. I'm a
Yeah.
truth seeker. Red pill.
I
How
hear
about
you.
you?
I hear you. I'm a red pill person, although I have blue pill moments.
Yeah.
There are moments where I think in the midst of, because you and I both have the churches that we work at where we're helping a lot of folks trying to understand their spirituality and going through difficult times and hearing some pretty difficult things that life brings to people. We both are activists online and in our writings. And so we are confronting some of the harsh realities of the world over and over again. And all of that collectively can end up feeling like a lot. And I have to admit that there are moments where I think I want to disappear. I want to go live on the beach and have a 9-to-5 job where I have a task and I already know what it is. And all I have to do is perform it and finish it each day and do the best of my ability and walk away from everything else and go sit on the beach the rest of the evening. I have to admit, I have my blue pill moments, but no, I'm ultimately with you, man. I'm a red pill. I want to know it. I want to know what's going on. I want to understand it. And I want to then live in it and try to influence it to be a good space and healthy for folks. So yeah, I'm with you there for sure.
Yeah, I'll take the beach every once in a while, Yeah.
My blue pill moments, man.
Yeah, it's like a 24-hour blue pill. Maybe the 24-hour blue pill helps you accept the red pill a little bit.
Exactly. I think you're
red
right.
reality.
I think you're right.
Self-care and all that escapism is sometimes
so important.
Hey, man, I mean, that's part of the reason we do this show, right? It's some
100%.
minor escapism.
It is. It 100% is. And even though we do talk about red pill things, it's still escapism.
Our escape is but it's so ingrained. We're such truth seekers, man, that we can't help but let even our escapism relate to the truth.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, this has been a lot of fun talking about the Matrix.
Blast.
I mean, a great show. It's been fun to revisit, and I've really enjoyed revisiting some of these over the past few months. It's been fun to look back, and there are some new releases of some shows, but we want to get some episodes out there so that we can talk about them in more detail. And Mark, you had suggested before the show that maybe we look at the other direct Matrix sequels. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
The rest of the trilogy, right? I think it could be a lot of fun. There's been so much work done on them since we watched them originally that there's some things that people probably haven't thought about since they last watched these, which I think could be very helpful. Even, there's a lot of folks who didn't love the follow-ups, and part of that I have started to believe is because we didn't fully understand the direction of the metaphor, and that maybe having a discussion could be a lot of fun for us on that.
Okay, I'm game. Let's do that. So next week is Matrix Reloaded. That's the direct sequel, right? And then in 2 weeks it's the Matrix Revolutions.
See, here's what I'm going to push. Why don't we just do Reloaded and Revolutions?
Okay,
next week because Joker 2 comes out the following week, and I don't want to miss out on that.
Okay, that's right. Okay, so we'll do both of them next week.
Let's do that. Okay, if it works for you, I think timing would work really well for that.
Man, we've never done 2 movies in a show before. I mean, we've done a whole season of something, but we've never done 2 movies in a show. I'm excited about this.
It'll be fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Next week. Okay, so this week, go through, watch The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, and we'll see you next time on The Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine Jesus.